Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox. So man, another 10 years has gone by. Have you felt it? Because I know I sure have. The past 10 years for me has been a pretty awesome ride for music. I've seen a lot of changes in myself and my taste, and there was a lot of crazy things that went down in the industry over the past 10 years. So I wanted to celebrate that with a list of my 100 favorite records. And now, of course, like any of these lists that I put out, it is going to be subjective. And when I was sifting through all these records that came out over the past 10 years, I mean, there was an overwhelming amount. I kind of wish I could have put 200 on this 100 list, and I shuffled over and over and over again until I finally think I have it to a place that I'm pretty happy with. Now, there were a few things that I took into account here on this list. Mainly, a lot of it boils down to how much personal enjoyment I got out of these records. Did it change anything for me as far as like my taste or just like my musical path of discovering things? Did it have any overarching influence on other records or artists out there that came out over the past 10 years? That, amongst maybe some other random little tidbits of information here, did factor into my list. So I did split this up into 4 parts. I'm going to count down 25 records at a time. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be reviewing all of these records here. I'm going to just list them off for you guys and maybe give some thoughts along the way. So yeah, I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right into this list. But before we do so, I just wanted to give a huge thank you out there to all my subscribers. And if you have not yet subscribed, if you're interested in music content, music discussions, we're going to be putting out a lot of videos this year surrounding around that, as well as talking about new records that come out. So if you consider hitting that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. And also, if you like this video, drop a like down below so more people can see it and share it. So anyway, shameful self-promotion aside, let's get right into this list here. So at number 100, I have the triumphant comeback record from A Tribe Called Quest, We Got It From Here, Thank You For Your Service. Just another really solid addition to the Tribe Called Quest catalog, and maybe their best record since Midnight Marauders in my opinion. At number 99, I have the self-titled record from St. Vincent. I was a little late to the St. Vincent party, honestly, but this record over here is the one that convinced me. I do think it is her best record overall. At number 98, I have La Dispute's Wildlife. This one coming out of 2011, which was kind of an interesting year for this genre of music, and overall, I thought this was probably the most emotionally potent record to be released, and it still holds up over time as a pretty interesting listening experience. At number 97, I have Chelsea Wolfe's Apocalypsis. I have grown to be a pretty big Chelsea Wolfe fan over the past couple years, and I do prefer her more doomy, folky style that she brings to the table, and this record here, I think, is her best one. At number 96, I have Tame Impala with Lonerism. Now, this is a really solid record that I can't even deny, even though I'm not a huge Tame Impala fan, but I think this is their best record to date, with a pretty fresh, colorful sound, and some pretty solidly written tracks across the entirety of it. At number 95, I have Future of the Left with How to Stop Your Brain in an Accident. This is a really odd and kind of eccentric rock record that I feel like goes a little bit overlooked in a lot of discussions. Everything on here sounds really crisp and some pretty memorable lyrics. Number 94, I have Daft Punk's Random Access Memories. The comeback of Daft Punk was actually a pretty enjoyable one, I thought, and yeah, I'm just kind of like keeping my fingers crossed that they will tour again in the future. At number 93, I have Arca's Stretch 2. Now, this is one of Arca's earliest releases, but he kind of exploded onto the scene with his futuristic and strange production style, all of which led to him working with the likes of FKA Twigs. But Stretch 2 over here is actually a pretty odd and eccentric release that has some futuristic production choices on it, I think. At number 92, I have the fun and eccentric, colorful pop record from Kero Bonito Generation. This is one of those niche market bands that if it clicks with you, you're in love with, and if not, it's a turn off right away. But I really enjoy this record. I think it's so much fun. At number 91, I have Young Thug with Barter 6. In my opinion, I still think this is the best Young Thug record, and his way with lyrics and words and his vocal melodies, I think, are just absolutely innovative. Thugger usually is a little hit or miss, but I think on Barter 6, he hits more than he misses, and still to this day, Constantly Hating is one of just the most refreshing sounding club bangers I've come across. At number 90, I have Courtney Barnett's Sometimes I Sit and Think, and Sometimes I Just Sit. This is just a really solidly written rock record from Courtney. I really love all the colorful energy on this thing, and her vocals and her lyrics come together in this really nice solid package on here. At number 89, I have Queens of the Stone Age's Like Clockwork. This is one that surprised me as being one of my favorite Queens of the Stone Age records after a couple years of sitting with it. Really heavy production, really solidly written, and it kind of just leaves me wanting another Queens of the Stone Age record, honestly. At number 88, I have Janelle Monae's futuristic blend of pop and R&B on Dirty Computer. This record is infectiously groovy at times, super colorful production and amazing performances by Janelle. At number 87, I have Nicholas Jar's side project Against All Logic with 2012 through 2017. Just a really solid kind of nocturnal dance record from Nick over here that kind of feels like you're in some club in Blade Runner or something. But for one track after another, this thing just has me grooving front to back. At number 86, I have Pusha T's My Name Is My Name. I think this is Pusha's best record, and looking back on this thing, there's some really forward-thinking production on it. Obviously, the viral single numbers on the boards, but also the track Suicide, and Pusha is sounding cold as hell as usual. At number 85, I have Black Moth Super Rainbow's Cobra Juicy. Over the past few years, I've kind of become obsessed with the world that Tom Feck creates in his Black Moth Super Rainbow and Tobacco projects. I absolutely love the warm and fuzzy synthesizer sounds that he's able to pull out, but also his ear for melodies I think are pretty enjoyable. And Cobra Juicy here I think encompasses the best piece of work that Black Moth Super Rainbow has put out front to back. At number 84, I have the dynamic duo of Freddie Gibbs and Madlib with Piñata. This has got to be one of the better collaborations of the decade and a really solid hip-hop record for the ages. Freddie Gibbs' gritty demeanor and flow matches so well with Madlib's production style on here, and there are some really solid features on it front to back, which yeah, I still do prefer this one to Bandana. At number 83, I have Death's Dynamic Shroud with I'll Try Living Like This. This was a pretty futuristic vaporwave record that came out through Dream Catalog a few years back that saw them fusing elements of like noise and plunderphonics. And sitting through the entirety of this thing, there are spots that are some like really soulful R&B moments, and then just a complete downright pummeling noise. I think this record was pretty ahead of the curve for the vaporwave scene, as you've seen a lot of records being released in that style kind of shifting away from that 80s down-tempo sample style. At number 82, I have Solange's A Seat at the Table. I still think this is Solange's best record, a mammoth of an album, with viral singles like Cranes in the Sky, and just a really enjoyable R&B record. At number 81, I have Lil Ugly Man's Miss the Thug Isolation. Now, Ugly Man is kind of stuck in more of like the underground hip-hop circles, but doesn't really get much love in wider groups. This record right here, I think, is pretty ahead of the curve and kind of forecasts the shift in sound into that like SoundCloud, kind of like heavier trap influence that kind of hung over a lot of records that have been coming out recently. But if you have not heard this record, I highly suggest giving it a listen. At number 80, I have the psychedelic rock gods Spiritualized Sweet Heart, Sweet Light. I think this is Spiritualized's other best record besides Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating into Outer Space. A really solid psychedelic rock record front to back. At number 79, I have MGMT's Congratulations, a record that was pretty much bashed and shunned from their fan base when it was first released, but kind of adored by critics. And over time, it has continued to be my favorite MGMT record. At number 78, I have The Spirit of the Beehive's Hypnic Jerks. This is a pretty mind-melding indie rock release that came out in 2018, and these guys are kind of just like the best kept secret in indie rock right now. The song structures on here can be pretty confusing at times with a lot of elements of noise infused in, but if you are pretty enamored with indie rock, I do not want you to miss this record. Go give it a listen. At number 77, I have the greatest boy band in the world since One Direction, Brockhampton's Saturation 2. Now, I sat going back and forth which Saturation record I should put on this list, and I did settle on 2 as I think it's the best one. Really fresh off the hype that they received from the first Saturation, I think Saturation 2 is a little bit more complete version of that sound, and I do think it features most of their best tracks to date still. And at number 76 might be a choice that's a little bit more surprising, but Drake's Take Care. I don't really think I could have put out a top 100 albums of the 2010s list without at least mentioning Drake. Love him or hate him, you know him, you've heard his music. He has been the most popular artist throughout the entire decade, and it's almost something you can't deny. And I actually think this record is pretty decent. There's some good tracks on it, and you can really hear the influence he had in the scene, blending in a lot of those melodic pop elements into his hip-hop tracks that created countless numbers of copycats in the years after it. So yeah, that's going to conclude the first part of this series. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite records of the decade were. And remember to like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the second part. Peace.